Welcome to our April webinar. Just a few quick reminders before we get started. As always, this webinar will be recorded, so if you want to watch anything back, it'll be available on our YouTube channel. During the Q&A session, or really at any point during the webinar, if you have any questions, you can use the raise hand function, and we'll unmute you whenever there's the chance, or you can type your questions in the question panel, which you'll see in the top right corner of your screen. Next to the question panel, this is new. We have the materials tab where we have a couple handouts for you. If you click it, you'll see some downloadable files, but we'll talk more about that later. And we welcome your survey or your feedback in our post-webinar survey. My name is Angela. I'm a product marketing specialist at Meisterplan, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Debbie, Director of Customer Success, and Nick, Product Owner. So I'll hand it over to Debbie to get us started.
Thanks, Angela. All right, we have a full lineup today as usual. We're going to do a deep dive on the risk register in the system that just got released over this last month. And then we'll go into what's coming next, show you some product roadmap items, and get into Q&A. All right, let's get started. So first off, just to frame up, what is project risk management, which many of you will know? It's that structured process for figuring out what could go wrong on the project, right? So you're on time and on budget. One could ask, well, when do you do risk management? Is it always needed? There are certain things from a practice standpoint that indicate if that project has certain attributes, there's more likelihood when there's higher complexity and higher budgets involved that you should be doing risk management. Or if the business impact is high, if there's a high financial impact if the project fails, or you need to get to a certain delivery date by a certain time, you need to do risk management. So many times risk management's very important. Now today, risk management's probably being done as often as you need it, and yet it's being done in Excel or some other, usually Excel is what I've seen. What this feature will give you is the ability to log those risks within Meisterplan. Why do that in Meisterplan? Why include it? Because there's a difference here on the role that you're taking at a portfolio level. While project managers can manage their risks equally well in Excel, what happens is you don't get to see it at a portfolio level and how multiple projects with different risks affecting the strategy you're trying to get, that value you're trying to get out of your portfolio. Project may fail, you don't want the value of your strategy to fail, and that's what's important at a portfolio level and why there would be reasons to do this within Meisterplan. All right, well, let's get started to show off what we have available to you. I first would like to get into that certain editions, so the Pro Edition versus the Premium Edition, both have this feature. The Basic Edition does not, okay? So you're probably on Pro or Premium, you will be able to see this feature. Project details. Let's get into a project here and see the end result. And so what I'm showing you here is the risks section, and this section can be added after you've set it up. And I will show you in a moment how to set this up. But what it's given you is the ability to add risks, the name of the risk, maybe a contractor unavailable, some description of that. Optionally, you can add a risk owner. Who's in charge of keeping that risk from happening? but a traditional risk register would give you the impact and likelihood for that risk to occur. Based on that impact and likelihood, it will generate a risk level. And this mitigation is a description field. How will you mitigate this? How will you stay on top of it? So it's just like a traditional risk register here. Notice that medium risk now was calculated based on the impact times the likelihood. The information here, as you could see, is editable in line. You can add a new risk up here. I can also delete risks by hovering over and pressing the trash can. All right. Currently, we do not have any search for risks. You'll just see it in one long line. However, you can you can sort by any one of these columns, so you can maybe find it easier if you have a long list of risks. Every change you make to the risks will be shown in the change log. Okay. So this gives you another place for you to be able to see which risks have been added, which ones have been changed. So that's a good thing if something was put in or taken out and you're like, where did it go? Go to the change log. All right. Another thing to know here is when we think of risks, we just need to think they are global data. So it doesn't matter if I'm adding these risks in my plan of record or I'm adding these risks in a scenario. So if you also are very familiar with scenarios, oftentimes there's information there that is just scenario specific, things like allocations, financials, milestones. Just know risks are not scenario specific. If you add more risks, it is getting added to your plan of record. All right, so today, this is what you are able to get. It's really replacing your Excel, right? And getting it into a system that now has the ability to see it at a portfolio level. Now, what I want to do is switch over as the administrator of Meisterplan. We'll need to set some things up here in order for this to work for you. So if there's any questions, put them in the question and answer, and we will get to that before we get to the roadmap items. Okay, so administrators, I'm talking to you. We're going into the security settings here. And the first tab I want to see is the project and resourcing plan. Under the detailed project rights, there is a new right to add, edit, and delete risks. You see it right down here. It's a new checkbox under the detailed project rights. So what you need to think, which user groups are going to have the right to add, edit, and delete? Okay, usually it's project managers, maybe program managers, portfolio managers, product managers. So think of those that would get in here and have the rights to do that. That's it there. Now let's go over to the second thing we need to set up. Go back to manage. There is custom fields, and in the custom field section, you'll see a new tab called risk fields. So before we just had project fields, program fields, now we have risk fields. There are a few fields out of the box that are there for you and you don't need to add. So what you saw were out of the box. So name is there, even though you don't see it here, there is a name for that risk. There's a key for that risk. You don't need to add those kind of things here. Let me take you through the things we've added just kind of out of the box, but you have the right to do some changes. For example, while you cannot delete the impact field, you have every right to make changes to the answers, okay? if your risk register today has a 1 to 5 score, for example, all you have to do is add another option, add the score contribution to the risk level. So this is what we're going to multiply by. Risk, impact times likelihood. This is what comes into that calculation. You can color code these, of course, but this is a way to add more if your risk register has a different scoring model here. You can change the names to here, okay? And then hit apply. The same is going to be for likelihood. You have every right to change what it says and the scoring. So whether it's a 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 score, make those changes before you release this out. All right. Now, risk level. This is a new type of field we have. This behind the scenes is a numeric field. You can see the decimal places are 0. What it's doing is multiplying behind the scenes for you, impact times likelihood. And this field is special because it's trying to get you to say and configure what makes a low risk. And is a low risk less 1 to 3, 0 to 3. Medium risks, it starts at 4 and goes up to 6. 4 to 6 is medium, and a high risk is 7. So you're giving the range based on the outputs of the calculated field, likelihood times impact. And in mine, 9 is the highest I would go for a risk level. So I would like to say high risk is 7 to 9. So it's giving you that threshold to make the flag green, yellow, red. Of course, you can change the colors, but I think they're pretty good for a default. All right. There is ability to add more. You could, for example, put a score of 0 if you've mitigated it somewhere in the middle of your and so low starts at 1, and if I've mitigated it, it's a 0. So that could be something that you add if you have a process to do that. I mitigate it. I change like the impact of the potential impact is now 0 because I've mitigated the impact. Let's do that. And now your risk level for that risk would be 0. I meant to put it here. Sorry about that confusion. It's flexible, right? So think about your process as you think, how do you want them to update things? There could be another field you want here. Let's say we had a status for this risk, and the status is open or the status is closed. Maybe you're not using impact as I've mitigated it, but I have an open status, open and closed. So you could do something like that. Feel free to add what you believe is needed to match your risk register. All right. Good. I've seen other statuses being worked on as I've been seeing customers starting to use this, and something like the status is mitigated or in progress, accepted or escalated versus just open and close. So again, depending on how you're doing statuses today, we give you the total flexibility of being able to mirror that here in Meisterplan. The other thing that needs to be changed as an administrator is go into types and indicate where do you want risk list to be shown. You might have multiple project types. So in this case, I went into projects and you could see it is being shown here, but maybe I wanted it in its own tab, and I can add that risk here in its own tab. I don't need to put it on the overview tab. You have the flexibility of putting it where you want, either on its own tab, in a section within another tab. You also have the ability to add the other fields and get rid of fields here that you don't want to see. You can rearrange fields. So very similar to our other list, you're able to organize it the way you want. Let's put mitigation at the end, status in the beginning. Let's hit apply. Now, if you don't want it on the run the business projects, maybe it doesn't have any sense to be there, don't add it there. So that would be one way of being able to see risks on certain project types and not others. All right, I want to, for a moment, go back and show you one other thing that's very exciting with the risks, and it just was released within this last week, is that the PowerPoint export that you can do from Meisterplan, which traditionally is used for that status update, or that gate review, and you want to get your information from Meisterplan over to PowerPoint. We have that integration that was released. Well, Risk List is now available on that PowerPoint. And so you can put a placeholder in that PowerPoint template for risks. And how you would use that is you would put in the risk name, risk owner, whatever the fields are that you want to show there. If it's our out of the box field, it starts with risk underscore. If you added a field like that status, that's going to be starting with CUST for custom. It's a custom field I added for that status underscore. And then, so that's what you would put there. The really cool thing about this risk list going into PowerPoint is you can actually filter the list by a single select field. So for example, if that status and you only wanted open risks, you would put the answer open under that status column. In this example, it's only bringing over the likelihood of high risks to the PowerPoint. So it really gives you some nice flexibility of being able to filter certain things over to the PowerPoint, even though your details show you a lot more. All right, one other slide, and then I'll open it up for some questions. Risk management is a traditional project manager responsibility. And if your project managers or your PMO would like some additional information, we have some partners that provide risk level advisory. And with PMO Strategies, they have a membership, and it's geared for PMO office. The PMO squad is dedicated to PMO leaders, thinking of that portfolio level risk here. Your Clear Next Step has many trainings, has some free blogs, has some information to get started with risks. You'll see something in the handouts on where traditional risks come from and thinking about it ahead of time, and that's more geared towards project managers. They also have a half-day risk management workshop. Come to your customer success team. We can help deep dive this context for you. We can get into some of these common risks and email that to you should you not be able to find it over in the handout. But there's a lot of great information out there to help you with risk management. All right, I'll open up for questions. There was, it looks like there was one question here on whether the risks could be copied over.
We may have just lost Debbie.
Yeah, it looks like it. Can't hear as well.
Okay. Then hopefully she comes back and she can
Yeah.
answer the question maybe during the Q&A session, and we
Yeah.
can just
Mhm.
move along to the next part. And yeah, that's further development. What's coming next with
Yeah.
Nick? So
One,
Huh. Sorry, Debbie, can you hear us? Oh, yeah. Okay. Then I will just start. Then thank you, Debbie and Angela. And like we have heard before, risks are really important, and also the risk management. But risks are not only on a project level. What is really important is the portfolio level, so the overarching level. And we thought about it, and we are thinking about implementing a list in the portfolio dashboard, which shows all of the risks across the different projects you might have. And some of you might be familiar with the milestone list that is currently available in the dashboard. And this should work quite similar. The milestone list is currently limited with the columns. And with this new risk list, this should change. This list should become configurable, so you can add new columns if you want. And of course, you can then also sort and filter the list how you like it. And in this example, it is filtered after the risk level. And here you can see the projects with the highest risks. And yeah, you could use that. Good. Thank you. And yeah, this is all nice and well. But what happens if you have a lot of projects and even more risks? Then it will become really confusing over time because it's just too much. And to handle this, we thought about implementing dashboard cards. And these cards work similar to the current cards for the projects, for example. And with one glance, you can see, for example, how many risks are there and in which risk level are there. You could use a donut chart, for example. If you're, for example, interested, how many risks are there in my whole portfolio, then you can also just add a card and see this. And another really interesting point is what wasn't mentioned before, is that you have financial fields. So you can get an overview about, for example, the expected costs to mitigate those risks, or what the cost would be if you don't mitigate it. And then it's really easy to compare those two and make a decision. You could also use those cards to see how are my risk owners doing. So is there, for example, one risk owner who has a lot of risks and is just overloaded and might need help? So yeah, that would be also a possibility to use those cards. Thank you. And yeah, next up, we got a lot of feedback regarding this, and mainly it's the multi-text line field. So a lot of you mentioned that that you would like to add more text in the table, but the problem is that the table is just quite small, and there's no really feasible way to show those multi-line texts. So we came up with the idea of a risk details page. So you navigate from the risks to this details page, and then you can see in an orderly manner some details. For example, the risk owner or the risk level, which you can already see in the table. But there you could also see the text. So a lot of you mentioned that you would like to leave longer notes. For example, what is this risk really about, or how should it be mitigated, or just some other notes about this topic. So this would be also an idea how to handle this. And we had just some considerations because it might get confusing because you're navigating from a details page to another details page. And it looks quite similar to the current project mask. And yeah, the only real visual difference is the green chip at the top with whisk in it. So yeah, I would be really glad to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I can launch a poll right now if anyone has any opinions about whether you would use this feature based on what you know right now. So I'll give you a couple seconds to submit either yes or no. Okay, I'm seeing some mixed results, but thank you for sharing, and we will take it into consideration. And the features that Nick spoke about just now are also in our public product roadmap. So if you have any feedback about these risk features, we're always happy to hear whether you like them, whether they're useful to you. So you can leave all of your comments there. And then, yes, speaking of the product roadmap, I'll deep dive a little bit into that and explain what else is coming. So we've restructured it a little bit, and now the cards are separated into these different tabs. The first one is exploring. These are features that we're just gathering feedback for, trying to put out feelers, see if this is something people would really be interested in. And if so, then we can take the next steps and start working on them. The planned tab are what we've decided to work on next. Then there's in progress. Some of these are already available for beta testing if you're a part of our beta program. And there are a few others that are just features that are being released very soon. And I can talk about a few of those now. The new portfolio designer is a modernized, sleeker version of the portfolio designer that you already know and love. We're still working on it, so the beta version is lacking a little bit of functionality, but you can definitely already test it out, see how it looks. I personally think it looks a lot better. We also have coming up very soon briefing sections in the program and project details. This is a compact read-only version of your project details where you can easily share information about your project in a way that's super easy to get an overview and is an alternative to maybe PowerPoint export, so you can keep everything in Meisterplan. On the flip side, we're also working on a possibility to limit project and program detail view access altogether. So if there are user groups that just don't need to be seeing the project details, then there will be a way to restrict their access. And a big topic for us this year at Meisterplan has been integrations. So we've been working on our extended integration hub, where we will be adding more and more out-of-the-box task management integrations. And the next one coming up is Todoist. We are also working on ClickUp and Monday.com. And the final tab is released. So these are the newest features. And I can also walk through some of these. As I said, we're working on integrations. So some that are already available out of the box are Planner Premium, Wrike, and Asana. We've also released custom planning intervals. So if you don't plan with quarters or months, and you have some other time period that you're working with, then you can now create those and have it visualized. We also have notes on actual time worked entries, exactly what it sounds like. You can leave notes on individual entries for actual time worked. And spreadsheet style editing of financials. So financials were previously displayed in a list style mode, and now you can toggle between list mode and grid mode, with grid mode being spreadsheet style, so you can edit the cells directly there. And I have just a few advertisements. So our next webinar is a deep dive into the Meisterplan Integration Hub. It's taking place on May 19th, 9:30 until 10 Central Time. So you might have to do a little bit of mental calculation to see what time that is for you. Central Time is, for example, Chicago or Houston. And this is all about how our out-of-the-box integrations work and how it might benefit you. So if you're interested, definitely sign up. If you're not sure if you can make the time, I'd recommend still registering, and then we'll send the recording to you afterwards. And in our handout, the one titled Meisterplan Webinar Handout, you'll find the links to everything you might need after this webinar. So it's just a simple one-pager, and if you click the buttons, then it'll take you where you need to be. So you can learn more about the risk register feature. You can book a one-on-one session with our product team. You can sign up for the integrations webinar, and you can join our LinkedIn community where we post our latest updates. Okay, looks like Debbie has not returned, so maybe she's having technical difficulties. Oh,
I was able to return.
hello.
I didn't want to interrupt. Hello. The joy of home internet and your kids using it at the same time. All right. So what questions did we have that you weren't able to answer?
We lost you in the middle of you answering one of the questions. So if you could just reiterate whatever you had said.
Sure. The question was, can you copy over risks from one project to another? Directly, the answer is no. However, you could duplicate a past project that has risks and use that as the start of a new one. So that would be a way to technically copy over the risks. Just duplicating it and starting from there. So if you had a template saved with some common risks that you would typically have for, say, IT projects or other project types, duplicate that one and then add your other information. But I was also adding, if that was a feature that specifically you're interested in, please feel free to give feedback on our product board as an insight, and as others customers, if they are asking for the same thing, it will get the product manager to look at it with your votes count. Awesome. What other questions did we have, Angela?
There is a question, how are risks handled by reports?
I could start, but Nick, if you had additional information, feel free. So today, the integrated reports will not have the risks there. It's thought to be more of a project management focus and using it just directly within the tab. Second, as Nick presented on the backlog, the risks coming up to the dashboard is a is a focus of ours, and getting them to that portfolio level more for transparency. Of course, the PowerPoint has kind of like a report option there by exporting the risks to PowerPoint. In terms of the APIs, those are being considered to get risks part of the endpoint where it could be used for Power BI reporting. There's not a current release date yet, but it is my understanding that it's within the next quarter or two that they would be getting that to the reporting API. If there's any more specifics that you have for that question, feel free to reach out to your CSM, and we'll be able to make sure you get your vote on something if in our backlog.
There is another question. I'll read it out. Maybe not something we can answer, but I'll voice it. There are many project level improvements, which is great, but we really use Meisterplan for the portfolio level, and this is where the reporting is key. However, that part of the application hasn't been touched or improved in so long. Why? Having even basic ability to see who created the reports and when would be so helpful. The reports themselves are decent, but managing and working with them is really hard.
I'm assuming that's coming from the integrated reports section of Meisterplan, where there can be a long list of reports, and it's hard to, during a long list, filter or see who created it or who it's for. We'll take that feedback on that to our product team, but appreciate. Yeah, I don't know how to respond either to that one, but we definitely have heard that some improvements to the user experience, especially as an admin, when you could see 100 reports, it can be daunting of finding the ones that you're looking for.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, then thanks so much. I wish everyone a lovely day or evening wherever you are in the world, and we will take all the feedback with us to our product teams.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.